Hello fellow battle researchers, today we're talking about the #1 competitive Coromon resource, the Damage Calc / Teambuilder. There are about 6 or so tabs we'll be talking about today, going step by step to show you how to best use this for damage calcs and for team building. If you enjoy the content or are excited for more Coromon, definitely hit the like and subscribe button and let's jump on in. The tab we're currently on is the Damage Calculator tab, and we're going to use this top section for our Coromon, and we're going to use this bottom section for our opponent's Coromon in these examples. I do want to note that we will go over this right hand instruction side later in the video, but for now we're going to zoom in so that we can see our Coromon and our opponent's Coromon a little more clearly. The first thing you'll want to do is select your Coromon that you want to use. If you want to use a preset Coromon, what you can do is click here, and then depending on the name of the set, you can select your Coromon. So in this case, let's click Glamoth, who is a special attacker. You'll see the set update here, and you'll see your damage calcs update as well as the skills change. If you want to input your own custom set, that's also pretty easy to do. What you want to do is click the delete key to erase the Coromon here. Then you want to go down and select a Coromon name. We'll click Vareth. You want to select your item. From here you want to select your trait, which are only going to be valid traits for this Coromon. You then want to input your potential points, so we'll put 60 here and 60 here. We'll also put 6 into SP, and then from here you want to select your skills. As long as this check mark is active, you can only select skills that are valid for the Coromon. So let's hit Revenge, let's click Avalanche, also add Smackdown, and for good measure, let's add Berserk. So you'll see here the damage calc is updated, and I do want to note that the 4th slot is always going to be manually updated, which is stated here on our right hand side. That's for things like Bolt Bomb, which might have different powers, but for here what we want to do is just key in 30 because that's the power of the move, and then your custom set is now added for your damage calc. Once you've created your custom set, you're able to export that set and use it again if you'd like to. To do that, you're going to click on this arrow here, and as our instructions say, this is to export active sets to My Teams or the Sets tab. So what we're going to do is scroll back over, click on this here. You'll be asked to authorize the script to run, and once you go through those prompts, you'll be able to run scripts on the damage calc. Once you've accepted and given authorization for scripts to run on this page, you're going to click this button here. The script is going to run, and then once that's completed, you're going to go down to the Sets tab, and as we scroll down, you'll see our new Borealis set is here. I do recommend renaming this set, so we'll call it Borealis Test, and then once that Coromon set is saved, it can be used for further use. For example, under My Team, you can click this drop down, scroll all the way down, and you'll see our Borealis Test set is now available to be used. Like we mentioned earlier, the damage calculator already has popular Coromon and their most used sets, so it's really helpful for doing quick calculations, especially for your opponent's Coromon. Let's use our custom Borealis set and this standard Torval set as an example. As you can see here, Avalanche and Smackdown are both going to be OHKOs against this Torval because the minimum amount of damage that can be done is 149% or 161%, which means that this move will always KO this particular set of Torval. While the previous example is really easy to understand potentially, this one might be a little more complicated, so we've changed our opponent's Coromon to a Malevite that's pretty bulky, and we see here that the min amount of damage is 94% or 87%, and the max amount of damage is 111 or 103%. That means this move will not always KO the Coromon, and we want to talk about damage rolls to better understand what this means. To enable damage rolls, we're going to click on this here, and what we're going to see appear right here is the possible amount of damage that's going to occur depending on the skill that you have selected. In this case we'll use Smackdown, and what we're seeing here for damage rolls is that this move will do anywhere from 174 damage to 205 damage because these are not set damage moves. The other thing to think about when you are using damage calc is how much your opponent is doing to you. So in this case we'll click on Stone Fist, and we can see here that the damage rolls for this move are anywhere from a min of 30% to a max of 35%, and what that means is we have rolls ranging from 42 to 49 damage points. So it's always important to know how much damage you're dishing out with your Coromon, but it's also important to know how much damage you're receiving, and that's what makes the damage calc so valuable for your matches. One thing to keep in mind is that the damage calc has the most popular sets a Coromon may use, but you do want to keep in mind how much damage you're doing. For example, for whatever reason, this is only doing like 50%, maybe this Coromon instead of the P.E.K.K.A. stone has the Maka stone, and you want to keep that in consideration. The damage calc is only going to show you the most popular sets, but you do want to keep an eye on how much damage is actually being done to determine what type of Coromon is in front of you. And remember, you can always change these sets as needed. So like this example here, if you had initially the P.E.K.K.A. stone, but you realize that this is actually a Maka stone Malevite, but everything else seems standard, you can change that. And for the opponent, if for whatever reason they don't have splatter, but they have something like, let's say, stalagmites here, you can always update these templates if you need to, and then again export as needed to use this set later on if it is a standard set you plan on using in a damage calc. There are a few more things you can do on this tab. For example, you can activate crits by clicking on this button here, and you'll see the damage increases quite a bit when we do account for those critical hits. So if you do have your crit meter activated, make sure to plug this button in here to make sure you're getting an accurate read on how much damage you're doing on that turn. You can also activate weather conditions. In this case we have an active weather because Malevite's on the field, but if we change this to example to snow, we're then going to see Borealis' speed increase because we do have a modifier. So mainly a friendly reminder to always account for the weather on the field. Then as we change this back to something like rain, we're going to see Borealis' speed drop back to normal because there's no longer a modifier on the field due to weather. You can also activate conditions on the damage calc as well. So for example, if our Borealis is poison, you're going to see our attack drop from 251 all the way down to 175 because that's a 30% decrease. If for whatever reason we have a burned Malevite on the opponent's side, we'll see a 30% decrease in special attack, but a 5% increase in speed. So something to keep in mind as well to help you have a better and more accurate view of the battle and your damage calc. A really cool function of the damage calc is that you can click on this cell here or here for the Coromon that you have actively calced. And if you copy this, be able to move that into a Word document and copy the set. So once you've copied that text, you'll come to your document, you'll hit paste, and then the Borealis set that we just copied from the damage calc is now available here, which is a really nifty feature. And as we scroll down to the bottom of the page, there are two really cool views that we have. One is the skill viewer, the other is the trait viewer. So for example, if you wanted to know more about this skill here, which is backstab, you can see 1 the PvP power, its category, the description. You can also see which Coromon have that move available to them. And if you wanted to, you can come down here to traits. You can look at things like Dry Wind or Dry Wind Plus. You can see who that's available with, and you can also see the de-evolution stats for plus and plus plus traits. The next tab we want to talk about is the sets tab. This is going to include commonly used Coromon and their most popular sets. For example, we have things like Special Defense Malevite, Special Defense Goldbeak, we have Octo Sweeper. So you'll see the set name, the Coromon, its item, trait, its potential point spread, and then the 4 skills that are recommended to be used with this Coromon. This tab is a tremendous resource if you're trying to understand a few things. 1, which Coromon are popular, and 2, of those popular Coromon, what are their most effective sets. So I do highly recommend checking this out if you're a newer player, or even a more experienced player who just wants to get refreshed with some common Coromon that are effective in the meta. The next tab is our team building tab, which is a lot of fun. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have all the HP, speed, attack, defense, special attack, and special defense rankings here. We also have different speed tiers for each Coromon, and we have some instructions. So one thing to keep note of is that these are all color coded. So for example, something like Cry Beast, which we're highlighting here, is going to get +1 speed in the snow, so that's going to be calculated here for you already. Another Coromon, something like Sandrill that has Wet Coat, will get +1 speed in the rain. So something to keep in mind as you're thinking about building out your team and different speed tiers. You can also filter by stats. So for example, if you wanted to know which Coromon has the highest base HP in the game, you click this button here and see Sriracha. No surprise because it's a really big staller in the meta. If you wanted to know the fastest Coromon in the game, it's Lumisect, and you can sort by that as well. So this top part of the page allows you to quickly see that information, and you'll notice here that we can check Coromon. What we're going to do is uncheck all of these as we scroll down to see the bottom half of this tab, because what you can do here is select Coromon as we click on them here and gain a lot of information about your team. So as we scroll down, we have our 6 Coromon selected, and what you can see here is what your Coromon are weak to, what they're strong against, and you can also see here their different breakdown of stat. This is extremely useful for team building because it allows you to quickly see what you're weak to, what you're strong against, and what your team might need more of. So for example, looking at this team, we're kind of light on special defense, so what you might want to do is scroll up here to the very top of this tab, sort by special defense and say, oh great, something like Octo has really high special defense. Maybe I'll take out my Rhino Buzz, switch that with Octo, and as we scroll back down, now we can see our special defense is beefed up quite a bit based off our sorting and bringing in a new Coromon that better fits our team. You might also look at this team and say, wow, we're kind of weak to water, so what I want to do is click off something like Raptor and bring something like Claw. Now we're no longer quite as weak to water, and our team is a little bit more balanced because of the quick information we could see in the bottom section of this tab. And one final reminder before we move on to the My Teams tab, when you do see these color-coded speeds, it might be advantageous for you to take advantage of that. So for example, if you have a Glamoth on your team, you may want to bring a Coromon that's going to bring the snow to allow it to get +1 speed. And same thing with things like Darikara, because of that wet coat, it will be faster in rain. So it might be advantageous to bring a Coromon that has humidifier to benefit Darikara and its trait. So one way to best utilize the My Teams tab is actually starting on the Damage Calculator tab. What we're going to do is select 6 random-ish Coromon here. Cyber Bite is always a fun one. I love Octo personally. Pergas a lot of people love. And let's throw in Raptor. And what you want to do is hit this export button. Assuming you already have accepted or authorized the script to run, the script will finish. As you go to My Teams, you'll see the team that we just created is now available. I recommend renaming this. We'll call it Test Team. And Test Team. We'll call it Test Tem 1. And then go back to our damage calculator and we'll see Test Tem 1 is available. We'll select Team 1 just to clear this out. Come back here. And this team is now updated and available for your damage calc. The other way to utilize this tab is starting on the My Teams tab. And we'll also just select 6 Coromon slightly at random. And then what we're going to do after we have this 6 is we're going to name the team. And let's pick something fun for the last one, Caradoon. We'll name this one Test Tem 2. Hit enter. And then what we want to do is come back here, click on Test Tem 2, and then we'll see our team populate that we just created under My Team. This is a super helpful feature if you have multiple teams, and as you can see on My Teams, there are many roles you can fill. This is super helpful if you have a lot of teams that you're cycling through or just want to quickly calculate damage for. I highly recommend using this tab and inputting your teams ahead of time to have them available for your upcoming matches. In addition to using the drop down here to select Coromon, you can also click on a Coromon's portrait like this to update the damage calc. You can do so for your opponent as well. So if you have these teams preset and already ready to go, you can click on portraits to update, which I think is a really nifty and cool tool to utilize. Next is the roles tab, which I think is a really fun tab. And what I want to do really quickly is scroll down to the bottom, because all of these different categories here is what we're going to be using on the top half of this sheet. And we also have a legend here towards the right hand side that lets you know what a special sweeper is, all the way down to staller. I also want to note here that rows 4, 7, and 10, these are going to be templates for teams you might use, so like mixed wall, staller, physical sweeper, so on and so forth. These are all preset, so if you wanted to make a team, you can only select from mixed walls here, only stallers, only physical sweepers, physical bulk, special sweeper, and then a physical sweeper as well here. Whereas in row 13, you're able to customize what this looks like. So if you wanted to have a physical wall, 3 physical walls, a special wall, another special bulk, and then we'll just say a staller, you can customize that team, but you're still selecting from the categories that we talked about here that start in row 34. If you have specific questions about the type of roles you should be filling on your team, definitely check out our roles video in our team building series that breaks down the different types of roles and how to use them in a lot more detail. But once you have that information, this is an invaluable resource to building your team quickly and making sure you're filling out the roles that you want to for each of your competitive teams. Oh, and one final note. These team compositions are based off 3v3, which will be the top row here that we're highlighting, and then 6v6 will be these rows here. So just make sure to keep that in mind as you're thinking about team composition, because they will be different whether you're playing 3v3 or 6v6. Next is the PvP mode tab, which is really helpful once you're already in your match and you're playing maybe online. What I recommend doing is selecting your 6 Coromon, so we'll just use the 6 that are already here. This allows you to see your stats, but also see, for example, what you're weak to and what you're strong against. What you can do as well is if you are playing someone maybe in a best of 3 series, or you see them a lot on the ladder because it's slow that day, you can put in their team. So we'll just select 6 random Coromon, and then you can also see what they're weak to, strong against. So for example, if you see they're weak to water, you may want to bring your water type for sure. If you see that they're strong against the water type as well, keep that in consideration. But really helpful to keep in mind, you also have your speed tiers as well. And you can also see if this is your opponent's team, maybe they're really weak to special attackers, or if it's your own team, you can keep that in mind for what you're weak to as well, based off the stats that are being shown here. This tab is also different than the team building tab, which is this tab here that has all the information for all the Coromon. PvP mode is for when you've built your team, or when you're seeing the same team over and over again in terms of your opponent. It allows you to quickly synthesize information either about your team or your opponents. So a little bit different. This is for team building from scratch. This is once the team is already built and you want to know information about your team or the opponent's team. And our final tab on the Teambuilder / Damage Calc is going to be the type effectiveness chart. Really helpful for new players to help get familiar with what types are effective against others. You can also click on the Coromon in game while you're battling to see what's effective against them and what's not effective against them. But as you're getting started, this is a very helpful table and guide to help you better understand how the Coromon types interact, both typing and attacking types like things like foul, cut, and heavy. So after seeing all the amazing things that the Damage Calc can do, I'm sure you're ready to jump on in and get started. There will be a link in the description that you'll want to follow. This will take you to the instructions, and what you want to do is you want to come down here, and what you want to do is click on the newest version. It'll open a document page. You're going to make a copy, and then once that copy is made, you'll be taken to this page and you can start on your own Damage Calc. And that is our complete breakdown of the Teambuilder / Damage Calculator. If you like what you see, please consider donating to Vareth, who does this in their own free time as a volunteer and not paid for their work. If you enjoy Coromon and other monster taming content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Alright, bye everyone.